Some Pokemon are more rare or hard to come by than others. Perhaps they're a gift from a special character, or can only be found once during the story. These aren't legendary Pokemon, they're just exceptionally rare, ordinary Pokemon whose once-in-a-game encounters make them all the more magical. The Pokemon we'll be meeting today are like this. So, today, we'll meet Enjey's regional starters and Enjey's fossil Pokemon. Way back in the beginning of this series, I mentioned that the starters I created weren't always the standard starter Pokemon in the history of Enjey. In fact, those Pokemon only recently became the starter Pokemon as part of a conservation effort. For decades, the usual starter Pokemon of the Enjey region were actually Chikorita, Tepig, and Popplio. And today, we'll finally meet the regional forms these Pokemon evolve into. First, let's meet Enjeynian Meganium, the Bloom Pokemon. It's a grass and psychic type. The petals it conjures with its attacks allow it to use telepathy with others. Enjeynian Meganium is inspired by one of my personal favorite flowers, pansies. The English name pansy actually comes from the French penser, meaning thought, which helped influence the psychic type. Pansies have long been associated with the concept of contemplation and free thinking, so this association only makes sense, at least to me. Like many flowers, pansies are also associated with love, which is why the petals on Meganium have heart-like shapes. I gave this design a white underbelly not just because I love counter shading, which I do, but also to give the impression like this Meganium is wearing a tuxedo or a suit, as if it's a stage magician. I wanted this design to feel magical, fancy, and still very simple. Chikorita is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, so I absolutely had to include a regional Meganium in this project. I'm quite happy with how this little sauropod came out. Next up, we have Enjeynian Emboar, the Grill Pokemon. It's a fire and ground type. It digs underground for prize ingredients, using dirt as fuel for its attacks. This region's Emboar has a much more mellow personality compared to its Unnovan counterpart. The goal with this design was to make Emboar a kind of grill dad character, a chill guy who's just here to grill for God's sake. I'm honestly sort of surprised that grill culture didn't really make its way into the Unova region now that I think about it. Emboar's belly band here is also meant to look like a classic white chef's apron, and other aspects of its design have been softened and rounded out to give it a more friendly and relaxed look. The ground type is derived from truffle hunting pigs that dig in the dirt, and the fact that a lot of fuel for grilling comes from underground, like coal. This design really is an exercise in just making a handful of simple changes to completely change the impression that a design gives. You can still tell that it's Emboar, but its temperament is quite different from its Unova cousin. Let's meet the last of the regional form starter Pokemon. Meet Enjeynian Primarina, the lead singer Pokemon. It's a water and dark type. It sings with shrill, fierce notes that can startle any foe. It can be heard up to 5 miles away. If you thought Emboar was a dramatic change, then Primarina totally blows that out of the water, no pun intended. While Alolan Primarina is an opera singer, the Enjeynian form is the front for a punk rock band. Its shapes are sharpened to give it an edgier look, and its eyelashes are black to mimic the dramatic, edgy makeup that many rockers wear. The dark type reflects its more aggressive, meaner attitude than the mellow, relaxed vibes of the original Alolan form. This design also takes a little inspiration from the idea of a scary clown. After all, many people thought Popplio might turn into one before Pokemon Sun and Moon actually came out. A bright red nose and a makeup-like look really evokes the idea of a scary clown without being too obvious. This dramatic personality swap was definitely one of my favorite things about creating this design. These 3 starters are picked based on the rotations suggested by Pokemon Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus, of course, had the starter set of Cyndaquil, Rowlet, and Oshawott. So there are 2 other implied sets that could be Totodile, Litten, and Snivy, or Chikorita, Popplio, and Tepig. I went with the latter option since not only is Chikorita one of my personal favorite Pokemon, but Popplio's beachy vibe felt very appropriate for the Enjey region. Perhaps in the future I'll do another region project and use that other starter set. But that's for another day. For now, let me know in the comments which of these starters you'll pick, and then we'll meet our fossil Pokemon. New Jersey is home to a pretty cool piece of paleontological history. Back in 1938, New Jersey is where the first relatively complete set of dinosaur bones was discovered. This was a hadrosaur, from the species Hadrosaurus folki. Of course, I just had to include the Hadrosaur as the first of Enjey's fossils. So, let's meet Saurite, the Curious Mind Pokémon. It's a pure Steel type. Being revived from a pyretized fossil, this Pokémon gained the Steel type. It collects trinkets to look at, protecting its collection. As you can see, Enjey's fossils aren't simply rock types. They have different types based on how they were fossilized. Saurite here is inspired by pyretized fossils made of pyrite crystals. Pyrite, also called Fool's Gold, has a distinctive cubic shape that I truly adore, so I made sure to incorporate it very thoroughly into this design. The Fool's Gold concept is also a play on the fact that finding a complete Hadrosaur is a lot like finding gold, even though it's not literally made of gold. Saurite's habit of hoarding shiny objects is also inspired by the classical representation of dragons that hoard things like gold and jewels. The name Saurite comes from Hadrosaur and pyrite. With a little training, Saurite evolves into Hadrocrest, the Shielded Mind Pokémon. It's a Steel and Psychic type. Its ability to foresee the near future allows it to protect itself and its allies from attacks and disasters. It has a curious, gentle temperament. That little pyrite crystal always floats above its head, helping it focus its psychic power. While Enjey's fossils don't share the rock type, they do share one type once they evolve, the psychic type. This is inspired by the witchcraft properties of these stones, and I thought it would be a fun spin on the idea of Pokémon inspired by minerals. Pyrite is associated with protection, and I felt that it went perfectly with the Steel type anyway. Of course, the original form of Saurite and Hadrocrest probably didn't have all this pyrite growing out of them. They were simply changed by the way they were fossilized. I like to think that this is why Hadrocrest uses its psychic abilities to protect others. It's helping its friends avoid the fate that it itself suffered millions of years ago. Hadrocrest's name comes from Hadrosaur and crest, after the distinctive crest on a Hadrosaur's head. Let's meet the other fossil available in the Enjey region. This is Wysopal, the false fish Pokémon. It's a pure water type. Being revived from an opalized fossil, this Pokémon gained the water type. It plays with anything it can find. Opal is a stone formed in water, so it feels appropriate that an ancient aquatic Pokémon would be fossilized in opal. Wysopal here is inspired by the Ichthyosaur, a water-dwelling reptile that was quite the brutal predator back in the day. Its playful personality is inspired by that of modern-day dolphins, which, while not closely related to the ancient ichthyosaurs, definitely converged into a similar niche. The name Wysopal comes from wise and opal. With some work and dedication, Wysopal evolves into Wiziosaur, the ferocious fish Pokémon. It speeds through the water with a boost from its psychic abilities. Its bite is strong enough to tear the Shelder off of Slowbro. Wiziosaur is a clear counterpart to Hadrocrest, as many pairs of fossil Pokémon are in some ways opposites to each other. While Hadrocrest has a gentle and calm personality, Wiziosaur is aggressive and competitive. White opal in witchcraft is also associated with the moon, which to me further reinforces the oceanic vibe that opal has. Opal is also thought to enhance intuition, which plays into the wisdom aspect, and would be a valuable boon to a hunter. The wisdom element also comes from the associations with modern dolphins, which I didn't just pull for their convergent nature. Dolphins are also some of the most intelligent animals that humans have come to understand, and that element felt like a fun inspiration for a Pokémon. Drawing from both old and new animals, Wiziosaur is one predator that you don't want to mess with. And with that, those are the so-called gift Pokémon of the Enjey region. These Pokémon would typically only be available once per save file, so let me know in the comments which starter and which fossil you would choose. I imagine that like Pokémon X and Y, the regional starters would be available partway into your adventure, and the fossils would be discovered in a cave while traveling. I'm really quite happy with this set of Pokémon. I feel like they're a fun little microcosm into what research and development was like for the Enjey project. Thank you to my wonderful supporters on Ko-fi for helping to make this video possible and making my life a little bit more stable. If you'd like to join them, consider checking out my Ko-fi page. You can commission me, buy things from my shop, send me a tip, or support me monthly. I also post blog updates on there, so if you're interested in hearing what I'm working on, even just following me on Ko-fi is highly appreciated. And with that, I believe that is all that I've got for you guys today, so thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you again next week with another art video. And in the meantime, why don't you guys go out there and make some art?